Well, hello and welcome. This is the exciting time in the month when we get to share the finance figures. In fact, it's even more exciting than that because it's the end of the year. Our financial year runs just like a normal calendar year. So we finished December 2021 and we wanted to share a little bit more about that and looking forward into 2022 as well. So Simon, brilliant to have you here to help
it's great to be here, man.
Walk through the figures. Can we talk a little bit about giving, first of all? And if we look at the whole year as a whole, could you tell us about how the giving has been?
Yeah, so our offerings for 2021 were just over £950,000, which is an amazing figure. I just want to thank everyone who gives into the life of our church.
Yeah.
That was about just over £70,000 under what we budgeted at the start of the year. But the reality for 2021, it was very hard to know what was going to do off the back of the pandemic. And I think like lots of charities and churches, they saw amazing giving in 2020, which we saw.
Yeah.
And then actually have seen a bit of a dip in 2021 as everyone thinks about finances and, maybe some people who would have given one-off gifts haven't done that. So nothing to be concerned about there, but yeah, giving slightly below what we budgeted at the start of the year, but still amazing.
Okay, so thank you to everyone who's given.
Yeah.
Let's talk about expenditure. We don't normally do that, but it's worth doing that at the end of the year. So how we've been spending stuff. I know in 2020, we saved a lot of money, both because our venues weren't all open and we weren't having to rent them, but also on staffing costs as well, we saved there. And in 2021, we've opened back up, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
Venues back on, staff back in. Do you want to say a bit more about that?
Yeah, so even with all of that, actually our expenditure at the end of the year was about £28,000 less than we budgeted at the start of the year. So we did a really good job of keeping costs under control. And actually, if we hadn't bought the Farnborough building, we had a whole lot of expenses around that of about £25,000 of legal fees and all of that sort of thing. So without that, our expenditure would have been about £50,000 below the budget that we set at the start of the year, which would have been amazing. So yeah, just to say on our total income over the year, because obviously we have offerings, but we have money comes from other sources as well. So although our offering income was about £70,000 under budget, actually overall we were only about £50,000 under budget because money came in from other sources more than we were budgeting for. So yeah, some good news in there, some challenges in there.
And we really sense God in that, in opening back up and coming into these venues, didn't we? It wasn't just like, let's just spend again. There was like a following of what we felt God was saying.
Absolutely. And just realising as a church this year, we've invested for growth. We've invested to be in a place to grow and to expand. One of the other measures that we would have financially would be actually how much money we've got in a bank. People say cash is king. And that's always a question people ask. So we finished the year, we always aim to have about £150,000 in our general fund. So that's just the fund that we give, that we just do all our everyday, paying for stuff out of. And so we aim to have about 150,000. There's about 117,000 in that fund at the moment. And our goal is always to have around £300,000 in reserves. And at the moment, we've got about £287,000 in reserves. So both of those are a little under where we'd like them to be. Again, the reality is if we hadn't bought the warehouse where we're recording this, we'd be about £200,000 better off because we put £200,000 into the capital of this building in buying it alongside £1 million mortgage. So
that was a mortgage we didn't have to take because we had that reserves in
so we could have been, we had to take a 1.2 million. We didn't, we just took £1 million mortgage because we had £200,000 in cash. But that's meant that those cash, our general fund and the reserves are where they're at.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will make some sense.
So if we put those two things together, so income has taken a bit of a dip at the moment, but expenditure is all out because we sense God saying to go for it. That means a squeeze on the result, on the net income as a result. And we've taken that to trustees and they're okay with that. But could you say a little bit more about what that's like and how that projects forwards over the next few years?
Well, we do 3-year budget planning. So we've actually planned out for the next 3 years. 2022 looks quite interesting, if I could say that. So we're projecting offerings of about 1.1 million and total income of about 1.45 million, but we're anticipating expenditure of close to 1.7 million.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's a gap of about £220,000 in our 2022 budget. And then given some reasonable growth and some reasonable growth forecasts, that reduces over 2023 to about £135,000 and 2024 to about £45,000. So that gap between income and expenditure comes down, but clearly that is going to be a bit of a challenge for us.
And it's definitely an investment for growth, right?
Yes, so of that 223,000 gap, 160,000 of that is extra costs because of the buildings in Farnborough and Windsor.
Right. Yeah.
So if we hadn't done those, we'd have a £60,000 gap, which would seem very manageable.
Yeah.
You know, that would just be within the frame of what we would normally have. But because of the investment we've made, we have this much bigger gap. And really, as a community, we need to be trusting God and believing God for growth in 2023. You know, just God to be adding to us and us to be growing individually in our generosity as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, obviously we can pray into that, and we will do. We want to be open with our finances. That's why we do this every month. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but we live it, we enjoy it. What can we do then as individuals to help with this?
Yeah, I think I would encourage everyone to think about their giving. You know, we talk about people going on this giving journey. You know, if you've never given, why not just start giving occasionally? If you give occasionally, why not start giving regularly? If you're giving regularly, why not thinking about taking that faith step of tithing, giving 1/10 of your gross income? If you're tithing, why don't you even think to go beyond that? But I'd really encourage everyone just to think about, you know, is God calling me to give? Is God calling me to give more? The reality is if everyone in our community gave an extra £20 a month, we'd cover that £240,000 shortfall.
Wow, when
you
break
just do
it down.
the maths.
Yeah, wow.
You know, if every single one of us went, hey, I'm going to give an extra 20 quid a month, we would wipe that out, and we would have a balanced budget for 2022. So it's not, you know, huge what we're thinking of. The reality is we have some assets. So we have a couple of houses in Bracknell, which we have people in at the moment. There are no plans to sell those at the moment. I just want to reassure the people living in those houses that we're not about to do anything. But, you know, if it came to it, you know, one option would be to sell one of those houses, and that would pretty much cover most of the shortfall that we see for the next 3 years. So we're not in trouble. But my heart will be that we don't have to sell either of those houses, that actually, you know, we see an increase in our giving because more people are coming, people who've joined us in lockdown start giving, and we all just really think about our own individual generosity and what that looks like for us.
We have a history as a church, as Kerith, with money. God has provided for us amazingly in the past, hasn't he? Giving us, providing for us, and then enabling us to be generous stewards of the money that he's given. So we have faith for that. We're praying into that. Thank you for being part of that journey, and thank you, Simon, for all of that update for us today. It's brilliant to hear.
No, thank you.